I have seen that leadership, as we know it, is changing. The old model, where one charismatic leader drives everything, is no longer effective in today's fast-moving world. Could it be that true leadership isn't about one person, but about how well an entire team thinks together? When you look at a company, every employee is a potential source of insight, creativity, and problem-solving. So why do we still rely on a handful of people to make all the decisions? What if the real power of leadership isn't in a single person's ability, but in the collective intelligence of the group? I've come to realize that companies that embrace collective leadership are not just more adaptable, but they create environments where people actually want to contribute. I've also noticed that structured thinking makes all the difference. When a problem comes up, the way it's approached determines whether it becomes a roadblock or a breakthrough. Could it be easier than we think to solve complex issues? In my experience, when people are encouraged to step back and follow a process, conceptualizing, cognizing, comprehending, characterizing, and concluding, their solutions become more refined and their decision-making gets sharper. Instead of relying on gut feelings or rushing into fixes, they begin to work methodically, seeing the big picture while handling the details with clarity. What if more organizations made structured thinking the norm, rather than something only expected from the top? I've seen too many workplaces where employees feel like their voices don't matter. They do their tasks, collect their salaries, and keep their opinions to themselves. But is it possible that the best ideas, the ones that could shift a company forward, are already sitting inside those minds? When employees feel that their insights are genuinely valued, everything changes. It's no longer just a job. It becomes a space where they actively engage, innovate, and care about outcomes. What if every workplace could tap into this hidden energy? It's not about giving people a voice just for the sake of it, but about truly listening, considering, and integrating what they have to say. I've often wondered why people get so locked into their own perspectives. Could it be that breaking biases is one of the biggest challenges in leadership? When people hold tightly to their own opinions, they miss out on alternative approaches that might be far more effective. I've watched businesses struggle simply because they couldn't see beyond their old ways of doing things. What if it was easier than we think to break rigid patterns of thinking, creating a culture where different viewpoints are not only welcome, but actively explored, might be the fastest way to unlock real progress. I've realized that personality plays a much bigger role in leadership than most people acknowledge. There are those who think out loud and those who reflect quietly before offering insight. Could it be that many of the best ideas never get heard simply because they come from introverts? So often, leadership favors those who are outspoken. But what if intuition and quiet analysis are just as valuable, if not more so? I've found that when companies recognize and balance different personality types, they create teams where everyone's strengths are used in the best way possible. There's something fascinating about how organizations handle challenges. Some rely on a few decision makers, while others encourage input from across the company. Is it possible that the latter approach leads to better solutions? I've seen companies transform when they stop looking for a single right answer and instead focus on gathering a range of insights before deciding on a path forward. Could leadership become more fluid, shifting from one person to another, depending on the situation? Maybe the strongest leaders are the ones who know when to step back and let someone else take the lead. I've noticed that the biggest limitation in many workplaces isn't a lack of talent, but a lack of structured collaboration. What if leadership wasn't about authority, but about how well people work together to solve problems? I've seen what happens when employees feel truly involved. They become more engaged, more creative, and more invested in their work. The shift from top-down leadership to dynamic, shared leadership isn't just a trend, it's a necessity. Could it be that the most successful companies in the future will be the ones that embrace this shift now? I keep coming back to one thought. Leadership isn't about control, it's about possibility. What if workplaces were built around the idea that everyone has something valuable to contribute? I've seen what happens when people feel empowered to think critically, to challenge old assumptions, and to collaborate in meaningful ways. The results speak for themselves. Could it be that the future of leadership isn't about who's in charge, but about how well ideas move and evolve within a company? If so, then changing the foundation of leadership isn't just important, it's inevitable. Shifting to collective leadership isn't just about decentralizing authority, it's about transforming how people think and contribute. Could it be that leadership isn't meant to rest in the hands of a few, but should instead flow to where it's needed most? A critical thinking workshop model provides employees with the structured thinking tools necessary to navigate complex challenges, step into leadership roles naturally, and contribute beyond their job descriptions. The Strive 5 C's of critical thinking: conceptualizing, cognizing, comprehending, characterizing, and concluding offer a framework that helps employees shift from passive execution to proactive leadership. Conceptualizing helps participants see beyond their immediate tasks and identify the broader organizational context. Many employees perform their roles without understanding how they connect to larger goals. Could it be that when people recognize their impact, they are more willing to take initiative? A critical thinking workshop encourages participants to ask deeper questions, recognize patterns, and understand how their work aligns with long-term success. When people move beyond task-based thinking, they naturally begin to lead within their scope of influence. Once participants see the big picture, cognizing comes into play, developing and identifying solutions. In hierarchical structures, decision-making is reserved for leadership, leaving employees disengaged. But what if structured cognition allowed every individual to evaluate challenges, weigh solutions, and contribute meaningfully? Using the 8 dimensions of critical thinking, 8Ds: extroversion, introversion, sensing, intuition, thinking, feeling, judging, and perceiving, the workshop ensures that different perspectives are considered, allowing teams to balance structured logic with creative problem-solving. Comprehending shifts participants from surface-level problem-solving to deeper awareness of interdependencies within an organization. Many leadership failures stem from decisions made without fully grasping the long-term consequences. Could it be that the best decision-makers aren't the ones with authority, but the ones who understand how various elements of the business interact? A critical thinking workshop fosters systems-level awareness, helping employees move beyond linear thinking and develop the cognitive flexibility needed for dynamic leadership. Leadership isn't just about ideas, it's about execution. Characterizing in the workshop model teaches participants to define clear, actionable steps. Many organizations suffer from a gap between planning and implementation, where good ideas stall due to a lack of structured action. Could it be that real leadership isn't about having ideas, but about turning them into tangible progress? By engaging in structured exercises, participants learn how to translate insights into practical, measurable actions, ensuring leadership becomes a natural extension of their thinking process. The final step, concluding, ensures that leadership isn't just about making decisions, but about making the right ones. In many workplaces, decisions are made based on authority rather than insight. But what if employees were trained to evaluate, refine, and finalize solutions using structured reasoning? The workshop's emphasis on critical decision-making empowers employees to take ownership of results, building a culture of responsibility and collective leadership. When people are equipped to analyze, conclude, and execute effectively, leadership stops being about titles and starts being about capability. The 5 C's and 8 D's model of critical thinking isn't just a framework. It's a mindset shift that prepares employees to step into leadership roles dynamically. Could it be that the most successful organizations of the future won't be the ones with rigid chains of command, but the ones where leadership emerges fluidly, wherever it is needed most? A well-designed critical thinking workshop doesn't just train employees, it expands their capacity to lead, adapt, and innovate, ensuring leadership becomes an organic shared process rather than a hierarchical structure.